the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
I'm CJ.
And I'm Carlos.
Yeah, we brought Carlos back for a special reason. Chip, you were late. You messed everything up.
Yeah, well, this according to my calendar, I was like 35 seconds early.
Actually, you were 15 seconds late. But getting right to this, currently, I guess they're trying to say that the Pleasant Street project or this Streetscapes project is being supported by 3 neighborhood leaders because they want their streets redone. So for three neighborhoods to get new streets, which they may not get, let's be realistic, because remember, they're only specifically geared towards a particular street. They're willing to take it. So that's $10 million, $13 million a street, or $13 million a neighborhood. And one of the neighborhood leaders, and this is why Mr. Caesar is here today, wasn't even approached to support this idea. But they're using Pleasant Street, which is the Flint neighborhood, as the selling point. But before we get into that,
Before we get all that introduction in, we're not
Yeah, and we're not
away,
done.
huh?
before we get into that, and there's a reason why I want to say this. Here's what this Streetscapes program, if approved by the city council, by denying the voters the right to say anything on it.
Constitutional right, by the way.
What?
Constitutional right.
Right. This is what we're going to get.
There's going to be any issues with the city if they do need to bond for whether it's emergency repair or anything. You do not see there being an issue to bond 4 months from now, 5 months from now in the bond market. I get your answer.
In terms of the city's credit, you're currently rated A3 by Moody's Investor Service. And because you've historically used what's referred to as the State Qualified Bond Act program, which is a state aid intercept in which the bond issue is set up and the state actually pays the debt service and deducts that from your state aid, you've been able to have your credit rating enhanced up to a AA2, a very high level. The good news is that the city has an awful lot of state aid that it receives every year. So there's a funding source that gives a lot of comfort to the bondholders, and you're able to receive a very low interest rate in part on that. You'd still do okay in terms of your underlying rating. But the reason I bring that up is, to your point, you will always have to be diligent about balancing budgets, maintaining reserves, and in terms of you certainly have the capacity to issue additional debt in the future, but it will always be challenging.
It will limit us to potentially doing it. It will add limitations, I guess.
So, as you heard, we're going to bond for this Streetscapes program, and we're going to have limitations on any future bonding.
Well, there's another issue here. Now, for our audience, this is another classic example of political propaganda and telling half the story to convince the public we're doing well. Let's break this down now. It's just like the pharmaceutical companies all of a sudden now are running commercials about, oh, we spend so much money on research, and see this little kid here? He's cured because of all our research. They don't tell you that they get tax breaks for all that research. They don't pay any taxes, and they gouge trillions of dollars from everybody. Yeah, okay, they save somebody. Why not make a reasonable profit? No, they want to make everything. So again, propaganda. Now listen to what this guy said. He basically said that the only reason we pay these bonds is because we don't pay them. The state pays them. And the state pays them with money that we were going to get in state aid. So we're paying it with our own money, number one. But the only people that will pay their own bills is the state when we force them to. So we're on welfare. But let's look at the ramifications of what he just said. We get less state aid. They're always complaining. We need more state aid. And if we don't get the state aid, what do? They raise our taxes again because we can't run these programs. Heaven forbid that we pay our bills, get rid of our bonds, and have enough money not to have to raise taxes, not to have to go to the people every single year, because the fact is we're paying in every end. We're getting screwed in every possible angle. We're getting screwed by the city. We get screwed by the state because then we don't get state aid. Then the city turns around and complains we're not getting enough state aid. We're not getting enough state aid because the state's paying off our debt. This is propaganda. And you're doing wonderful. You just got to be diligent. No, you don't. You got to be just the opposite. Spend whatever the hell you want. Rebond, get the state to take it out of our state aid, and then we complain on the local level about not getting enough state aid, and we raise taxes and fees. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We really appreciate the city, and you look at Mary Sahadi in that tape, looking at the desk. She knows this out and out BS. She can't even look people in the eye half the time because she's spreading it so thick. And then Kathy Ann, I lie on demand, and I just got out of a meeting with her trying to lie again at an insurance advisory committee meeting. I mean, this is what we got. And this is what propaganda is. And we're going to segue into Carlos because, see, they tell you this stuff. They create this illusion. Oh, don't worry. Your bond rating went up. Your bond rating, oh, yeah, because the state's forcing you to pay your bills for once. Nobody asked the question, do we ever pay a bond or just the interest? No. City councilors went through that. Councilor Ponte went through, asked those questions, and then still voted in the affirmative, even though those answers weren't adequate, even though they wouldn't put it in front of the people. And now, again, another illusion, another myth is being created to convince the people. Goebbels would be proud. I'm surprised the ghost of Joseph Goebbels isn't roaming the halls in City Hall, the greatest propaganda minister of the 20th century. You know, the Nazi propaganda king. You know, and what are they doing now? The illusion. Oh, neighborhood leaders support this. And they said Pleasant Street. And who to better ask if that is truly an illusion, or is it true, than the king of Pleasant Street. There he is.
Thank you guys for inviting me to come here, and this is the first time that I really gonna publicly talk about this project, because I did get interviewed by the Herald News after the mayor's presentation on the Friday, and nothing was published. I have to say there. So. That makes this the first time that people are going to hear from me. And somebody called me saying that somebody called a radio show this week and said, the presidents of the neighborhoods that they're going to provide, they're going to get the streets fixed are supporting this project. Well, I got very surprised that Pleasant, Cache, and Alden got pushed in, squeezed into this project, because it's not until the very last slide presentation that shows and the mayor announces. And by the way, Pleasant, Alden, and Cache is going to be fixed with the loan from CDA. So at that point, I was like, wow, I made it. But none on that presentation the project was presented, what's going to be done on Pleasant Street. Today it's Friday. The announcement was a week ago. I still don't know what's going to be done on Pleasant Street and Alden Street and all of that. But that's one point. Another point is, I don't know if you remember, if you're around 10 years ago, we tried this before.
I was here.
Okay. During the Ad Lambert administration, the city spent almost $2 million on Pleasant Street. And guess what? We did the streets, we did the new sidewalks, we did all the new trees. And guess what? 10 years after, we still have the abandoned buildings that people didn't come in to buy it. And we have a brand new street. We still have not maintaining the sidewalks because guess what? If it's not the volunteers groups on this city to go and clean up Pleasant Streets and all the other cities, the grass probably, we could not all walk on the sidewalks. So this is just to say, so if you want to present this project as to beautify the city, I think I can get behind that. But when you tell me that this is going to bring people to buy the buildings and to open the business, that's not going to happen. Now, if you want to present this as beautify, now becomes like an extra. Now, do we have the money to do the extra that we want to do in the house? You know, that's what I see the program. So I'm not saying that I'm opposed to, but I have, if I'm opposed to, I have proofs that can say, let's look 10 years down the road. That really made a difference on these neighborhoods? I don't think that is the case.
Well, I think history has proven you correct because, you know, and I'm glad that you're in favor of putting lipstick on a pig. Some people are. Because look, I'm being, you know, I'm being a little facetious, but look, nobody likes to have really, you know, poorly maintained streets. But see, that's the point here. You know, we've proven categorically throughout the country that these beautification programs don't help the economy. The only way an economy progresses is when it's combined with improving the economic engine and then maybe beautifying it. Because you have the same people that wrecked these places before. Throughout the country, I don't care what kind of streetlights you put in Detroit, it wasn't going to help Detroit. It's not going to help Fall River. It's not going to help the economy. And that's, again, more propaganda, more of a scam. You know, make it pretty and they will come. Horse crap. Okay? I almost said it. But you know, the bottom line is businesses don't come to places where people don't have any money. And no matter what they say, nobody can change the fact that this is the poorest, that has the lowest household income in the state, that we have one of the highest, if not the second highest, number of people living below the poverty level. We don't have consumers here, so businesses aren't going to come. These things, it's crap. But then we get to a point you made, Carlos, which is a great point. We spend money and we bond, and we never do the things that we need to do. Look at the school, lack of maintenance, we need a new school. Look at those streets, 10 years, we need new. You know, the fact is there's no maintenance in this city. 25 or 30 years ago, the city council entertained a motion to create in every single budget a separate fund to put away for street and sidewalk repairs. So we would never have to bond again. Guess what? We're bonding again. And after we bond again, we'll spend all the money that we should have spent on this stuff over the years, giving people pay raises and not maintaining anything. As a matter of fact, I was talking to a friend of mine who has a friend who works in a cemetery. And his friend was complaining about having to use a broken down old push mower, not even a power mower, and how bad the equipment is. But they just gave the park Nazi a $5,000 raise. But we can't buy lawnmowers to maintain the cemeteries and the parks. Mm-hmm. They're using old equipment and crappy equipment. You know? But this is, again, priorities. As long as we allow politicians to spend all their money giving their friends pay raises and making their other friends rich, we're going to continue to pay taxes and get nothing for it. And I don't mind paying taxes. I didn't mind paying taxes when we had a 300-man fire department and we had a 300-man police department, and we had a DPW that was working. We had a lot of people working. The city was, and guess what? With all that, there were many years we didn't get our taxes raised, and we had a lot more people providing services. So what's the magic formula here? What's the bottom line? What's the moral to this story? They don't do anything that they should for us.
I've been asking every administration for the past 5 years that we need help on Pleasant Street is to make those buildings turn around. For those owners that have abandoned buildings, we need to turn them around. We need to get them new owners, and so they can fix them. We have problems maintaining the business because the owners of the buildings not paying the tax. So every year I have to come and help business getting their business license renewed because they have nothing to do. They pay their rent, but at the end of the year, the owner is behind in tax and they cannot get their their licenses. And for years I've been asking, and that's what Pleasant Street needs. Pleasant Street needs people, administration to take priority in getting those buildings fixed and getting those buildings going. That's what we've been asking. That's the problems I have on Pleasant Street right now. It's not trees, it's not sidewalks, it's not the street. Was done 10 years ago. And every time that we try to do something, like Mike Moda got a job for 6 months, and he bought in front of the city council. I'm working with the business, the small business, and this is, he brought a folder of business that he's been helping. Guess what? He lost his job 6 months after all the city councilors telling him, keep going, you're doing an excellent job, bringing us up to date with the business, with the small business. Guess what? He lost his job. He could not fund funds to keep a job. So every time that we do a small step to fix the problem, we fall back 10 steps. And that's what we need right now. I mean, this should be done 5 years ago. And for 5 administrations, we're not getting the job done, is to get those buildings turned around so we have more people that can rent and have business on Pleasant Street.
Shame on you, Carlos. Shame on you.
He's actually talking common sense.
You're talking about real people and an economy and trying to get businesses to work and people to work and stuff. When you know that politics in this city is all about giving everybody you know a job and a pay raise and making all your friends rich.
Well, I mean,
that's what it's about. And this foolish talk, working with to increase the economy of the city of Fall River and making it better by putting people back to work. Foolhardy.
The thing that gets me is, though, we have a lot of small businesses which are kind of successful. I mean, I'll pick one off the top of my head. Amarillo's Market. They used to be across the street on Globe Street. It was small, tiny, very congested in there. Now they've expanded, okay? And they've been very successful since they've expanded. Do you know that the Fall River Office of Economic Development could do nothing, zero for them? Maybe that's because they didn't give money to Carol Fiola's political campaigns. I don't know. Could be an allegation. Who knows? But to calm some city councilors down who are making a scene, they offered them like pennies. Well, here's $350 or whatever, and you can have that for a year. And the owner was like, it's not doing me any good. So what was the sense? So here's a successful business, actually hires more people, somebody who should have been given a TIF, but wasn't, because we're going to give it to Amazon, who's not going to give us anything, and we're going to give it to Market Basket, who's not going to give us anything. How come when they give these TIFs out, they never ever say 10%, 50%, or 20% must come from Fall River residents for new employment? And how come they never have those records or those numbers?
CJ, I can walk on Pleasant Street and South Main. I will give you the difference. The difference is South Main has brand new buildings. Probably the owners bought the buildings really cheap.
Right.
They had help to fix them, and they cannot rent them.
Right.
They've been empty for years. They
Right.
cannot, brand new buildings, they cannot rent them. Versus Pleasant Street with old buildings that people want to fix on their own. They don't even want the owner to fix it. They want to fix it because that's what they want to be.
Right.
I always have people looking for space to rent on Pleasant Street. My problem is those buildings need to be updated, and those owners, okay, is sitting on those buildings doing nothing for years, and the city cannot find a way just to take those buildings away from them to renovate them. So guess what? So Pleasant Street could have more business moving in. Everybody wants to move to Pleasant Street. Why?
Because you're there, Carlos.
Right, but I think that there is a program for that. It's called the Community Development Block Grant Program, but that money is going to be used for who God knows what. And here's the kicker: the propaganda machine was on radio propaganda, Radio Pravda today, and the Joseph Goebbels Jr. person, Mr. Faust, I don't know anything, don't live in Fall River, and by the way, I'm an elected official in another town, said, well, by doing this, we're going to take these low-income neighborhoods and we're going to bring them up out of poverty.
Oh, yeah. If you don't have a job and can't pay your rent, having a new facade on the building you live in is really going to help you. Look, this again...
And don't talk to me about facade, because I've been hearing about this facade program back 1992, first page of the paper.
You hurt my ears. You're talking sense. Please, stop it. Look, we know how this game works. And you, above all people, how many times have you been courted? This is what they do. They go to neighborhoods, and it's like Don Corleone.
Yeah.
It's like they make them an offer they can't refuse. We're going to give your neighborhood this. We're going to do this for your park. Now you got to support me. Now, what is the person going to do? I mean, if they really were interested in the city, they say, no, let's do something that helps the whole city. Let's put our money where it really should be. But no, this is political. This is political maneuvering. This is paving the way, and then you march them all up in front. Oh, the neighborhoods. Of course the neighborhoods want their streets fixed. As a neighborhood leader, they don't have the courage to say, well, if you call it a beautification thing, fine, but I'm going to have to say publicly, as you did, and kudos for you. You're one of the few neighborhood association leaders that I know that has the courage to say that they know that's not going to help the neighborhood's economy, because it doesn't. Lipstick on a pig, it's still a pig. It doesn't raise up community.
But I do have a question, Chip.
Go ahead.
Because this loan is coming from CDA, has nothing to do with the $9.8 million, whatever they asked.
19 million, yep.
19 million.
Yeah.
That's in the first bond.
If City Council don't approve that project, do I still have my money to fix Pleasant Street?
Who knows? Because Carlos, that's the other political trick. You mix up everything, and then people forget what you're talking about. We're going to mix up what we're going to do with the CDA money, what we're going to do with the streetscapes, and what we're going to do with state money, and then you throw all this manure out, and you march them all down like little soldiers and say, we need radios, we need this, we need that. They're going to make my streets look great. We're going to raise everybody up. Oh, horse crap.
And look at this. The neighborhood leaders, I guess, that came out to support this, how come right now we know 2 serve on the traffic board?
Oh,
one was a new appointee to the traffic board.
Coincidental.
Yeah, who's voting on an issue that directly affects her. So I mean, I'm having some problems here. You're getting your supporters from people that you're appointing to a job. This is called buying your vote. We saw this on the city council during budget times. Pam LeBeau got her tech teacher. Okay, God only knows what Joe Camara got. But Steve Camara got something. Everybody got something.
And it's
one
public.
Of his relatives.
And it's public.
Oh yeah, that's right. Joe Camara got a job for his brother.
And it's public that those neighborhoods then affiliate or support this mayor.
Right.
They were total against this mayor.
Exactly.
So, and it's public. They were holding signs on the streets.
Right.
And now guess what? They got appointed by the mayor to serve in boards.
But Carlos, this is why Chip and I always say all these neighborhoods have become are little PACs, little lobbying groups. Okay? And isn't it amazing that as soon as a new mayor is elected, if they didn't support that mayor before the election, The day that they are declared the winner of the election, they're over there attaching their lips to the posterior of the newly elected monarch. Okay? And there are very few neighborhood leaders that do. And there are only 3, maybe 4 neighborhood leaders that are vocal. You happen to be one of them. The other, 2 or 3 that are vocal are always in concert with the administration. And I swear, if all of a sudden the administration, whether it be this one, future ones, whatever, says the only way to get Fall River out of this problem is to blow it up and start from scratch, they would come out and say, yes, where do I put the bomb? They would, because they're lemmings. They follow. And as they're all marching off the cliff and they crash, it's always someone else's fault.
Yeah, well, let me say this very clearly. There's a couple of old adages that say it very clearly. One is, united we stand, divided we fall. I'm not against neighborhood associations, but I think neighborhood associations should just be groups that are looking to maintain their neighborhood and deal with issues about beautification. We live in a city. This city is a whole. And when you separate, this is why I'm not in favor of ward councilors. Because the fact is, divide and conquer. When they divide this city up into neighborhoods or ethnic groups, or even this country into groups, then they can court to those groups, and once they get enough of those groups to win an election, they don't give a damn about the rest of the people. Because all they have to do is buy off these subgroups until they get a majority, and they get reelected. See, that's the concept. What's the name of this country? The United States of America.
Oh, here
Not
we
the
go.
neighborhood of America. And this is one of the problems we're having, not only in the city, but nationwide. Everybody wants to be a group. Oh, it's the Latinos, it's the blacks, it's the Protestants, it's the Catholics. You divide people, look what happens. Look what happened in Ireland. All the same nationality, all the same. They killed each other for years because some were Protestants, some were Catholics. As Teddy Roosevelt said, there should be no hyphenated Americans, there should be no hyphenated Fall Riverites. There should be no Niagara Neighborhood Association Fall River resident. There should be no Flint Association. The greater good of the city should take priority. And until that happens, and these lemmings stop getting bored off with fountains and parks and
appointments
streetscapes
and jobs
and high-paying jobs for their daughters and jobs for their brothers and cousins and all their relatives, well, the city's not going to change. And until the people begin to look at things like they don't have good, we got crappy lawnmowers, but the head of the park department, who, by the way, didn't the Cambodian community go up and complain about her?
Yes.
Yes, yet she gets a $5,000 pay raise. God forbid if they would have praised her, she might have got a $20,000 pay raise.
No, if they would have praised her, they would have fired her.
Look, it's not the way to run a railroad. It's not in the best interest of the community. And the thing is, this is what it's about. What should happen here to raise Fall River up, as Faust said, we need to raise up the people themselves, the people and the jobs. Get them jobs. Get people in. As Carlos said, let's deal with the beautification's fine. Jobs first. This is the only thing that's going to make Fall River better. Stay angry, Carlos. Thank you for being courageous enough to say what's going to be said.
Have a great weekend, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching.